All right, lovely. And with that, we'll just get started here. Welcome, everybody. My name is Genevieve Lucas-Conwell. I am the Director of Programs at Actera, and Actera here is helping the Bay Area Air District do and hold the planned amendments to Regulation 5 public workshop, where Julia Luongo will be our speaker for today. And we'll go through the agenda. If we can go to the next slide, please. So today we'll have some introductions. We'll go through some introductions and opening remarks. We'll give our agenda will also cover the overview of Regulation 5, why this regulation matters, some context around Regulation 5, what the planned amendments are, the next steps to the process, what happens after this meeting, and then we'll go into questions and answers. And a little bit of some guidelines to the meeting. So participants will be automatically muted except when called on. So you'll see at the end here, we have some time for everybody to ask any questions and curiosities you have around Regulation 5. Once folks will be able to ask their questions and provide input during the Q&A and comment agenda. Before the Q&A, you all are welcome to use the chat as another means of asking questions, and staff will respond periodically. So how to use Zoom. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, this is just a quick tutorial and just a little guideline on how to utilize it. You have the speaker button. So once we are at the questions and answers of this portion of the meeting, you'll be able to mute and unmute. If you're interested in watching this presentation with closed captions, there is a show captions button here that you're able to see. Then there's also the chat feature. As we mentioned, your question will go directly to the Bay Area Air District staff that will be able to answer your questions throughout the meeting if you're interested in using that feature. And then the reactions button is a way for you to interact with the meeting, as well as another place for you to raise your hand when we get to the questions and answers. And then we also have the raise hand button. So during our Q&A, you will have that feature available to you if you're interested in asking questions. I will say that during the Q&A, we will be answering and according to firsthand first. So that's a little bit of the format that we'll be using for Q&A. And next up, next on our agenda, we have opening remarks by Viet Tran, who is the Deputy Executive Officer of Public Affairs here at the Bay Area Air District. So I will let Viet take it away.
Thank you, Genevieve. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to be here. Again, my name is Viet Tran, Deputy Executive Officer of Public Affairs with the Bay Area Air District. We appreciate your time and interest in this workshop on planned amendments to Regulation 5, which governs open burning activities in the Bay Area. The planned change is straightforward: to waive the operation fee for all prescribed burning. While this may seem like a small administrative adjustment, it supports broader regional and statewide efforts to mitigate wildfire risk through carefully planned and permitted controlled burning. Prescribed burning is a proven tool for managing vegetation, improving ecosystem health, and reducing the fuel loads that contribute to large and catastrophic wildfires. These controlled burns are especially important in the face of a changing climate and increasingly severe fire seasons across California. We recognize all prescribed burning has the potential for public benefit, regardless of who owns the land or conducts the burn. The plan change is straightforward: to waive the operation fee. Oh, I already said that, forgive me. This planned amendment reflects our strategic plan commitment to be effective, accountable, and customer-oriented. To learn more about our strategic plan, please go to strategicplan.baaqmd.gov. We've heard from land managers and prescribed burn professionals that current fee requirements can create unnecessary hurdles to conducting prescribed burns. By waiving the operation fee, we're reducing administrative burdens and making our permitting process more responsive and accessible without changing any of the environmental, safety, or notification standards already in place. This is a practical step toward a more effective permitting program, one that supports our mission and meets the needs of our stakeholders. It also reflects the district's values of accountability and service. We want our rules to be both protective and workable. Your input today is an important part of that process. We look forward to your feedback as we continue to refine our planned amendments. Thank you again for being here. And now I'll turn it back over to the team to walk through the planned amendments in more detail.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Viet, for these opening remarks. Next up, we have Julia Luongo, who will be walking us through the plan amendments and the rest of our agenda. Julia, take it away.
Great, thank you, Genevieve. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Julia Luongo. I'm one of the lead rule development staff working on this initiative, and I'll be walking you through our planned amendments to Regulation 5. So let's start with what Regulation 5 is and isn't. Regulation 5 sets limits on outdoor open burning, allowing only 17 specific fire types. Burning is only permitted on approved days, also referred to as permissive burn days, when weather conditions help disperse smoke and reduce the risk of wildfire. This regulation requires payment of an operation fee for those conducting burns. It's also important to clarify what Regulation 5 doesn't cover. This rule does not apply to outdoor cooking fires like grills, smokers, or pizza ovens, or to recreational fires such as campfires or backyard fire pits. So why are we talking about Regulation 5 today? The answer lies in the growing impact of wildfires on our region's air quality and public health. Wildfires produce a number of different pollutants, including particulate matter, or PM 2.5, air toxics, carbon monoxide, and pollutants that lead to ozone formation. This slide here focuses on PM 2.5 for one monitoring station in Vallejo, and each line here represents daily PM 2.5 levels for each year between 2020 and 2024. You'll notice that the largest spikes tend to cluster in the August to October timeframe, and that's peak wildfire season. Some wildfire smoke causes impacts that are obviously out of the ordinary, like in 2020. But some wildfires have more moderate smoke impacts, like in 2023, that are similar to the levels we see in the winter months. Impacts in the Bay Area depend on the location of the fire, the size of the fire, the time of year, and meteorological conditions. These increases can reach or exceed the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for daily average PM 2.5. And these impacts can also contribute to overall annual exposure levels, and that affects health. This chart here drives the point home. 27 of the 30 highest PM 2.5 days over the past 5 years were caused by wildfire smoke in the Bay Area. And wildfire smoke impacts health. Wildfire smoke contains fine particles and toxic gases from burning vegetation, structures, and household materials. It has been linked to increased risk of heart attacks, asthma attacks, and other serious health issues, especially as smoke events grow more intense and frequent. So with that context in mind, I want to give a little background on Regulation 5 and the reasons behind our planned amendments. So as Viet mentioned, prescribed burning is a powerful tool used to manage land, reduce excess vegetation, and lower the risk of severe wildfires. These fires are carefully planned, they occur at lower intensity than wildfires, and are timed to minimize smoke exposure to nearby communities. And here's how the prescribed burn process works. So the land manager submits a smoke management plan to us 30 days before the planned burn. They must also secure the appropriate fire permits from CAL FIRE or their local fire agency. We provide forecasting services up to 4 days in advance. And then on the day of the burn, final authorization for acreage and pile numbers is issued by 8 a.m. In recent years, we've worked closely with land managers and state partners to increase prescribed burn activity across the Bay Area. This chart here shows the total acreage burned through prescribed burning per year, color-coded by whether those burns were conducted by a public agency or by another entity such as a nonprofit organization or private landowner. A reason for this increase is that this is part of a broader statewide effort to use fire proactively as a forest management tool and reduce the likelihood of catastrophic wildfires. And in 2018, the governor directed state agencies to increase fuel reduction efforts, including prescribed burns, fuels treatment, and forest thinning, and encourage regulatory agencies to support this statewide priority. And then this directive was reinforced in 2022 when the California Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force released its strategic plan for expanding the use of beneficial fire, which aims to broaden the use of prescribed and cultural burning to improve forest and community resilience across the state. So now let's talk about the planned changes to Regulation 5. The most significant change is the expansion of our current fee exemption. So right now, we waive the fee for prescribed burning done by public agencies. We are now considering extending that exemption to all prescribed burns, regardless of who is conducting them. We're also proposing to shorten the advance notice requirement for fire training burns, to reorganize the rule definitions alphabetically for clarity, and to rename the section titled Prior District Notification to Prior Open Burn Notification to better reflect the terminology we use in practice. So here's what's coming next. We plan to release the draft rule and staff report for a 30-day public comment period in July. And after that, we'll present the final proposal with response to comments to our board of directors at a public hearing this fall. And that wraps up the presentation portion of tonight's workshop. So now we'd love to hear from you all. Please raise your hand or use the chat to share your comments or ask any questions, and I'll hand it back to Genevieve to facilitate the question and answer.
Thank you, Julia. That was a great presentation. So this is a great time if you're interested in asking any questions to Julia and staff. Feel free to use the raised hand feature on Zoom, and we will go by order of raised hand. And also, if you don't have a question, you're absolutely also welcome to ask any comments or throw any comments around the presentation, the plan amendments. This is a great time to do so. All right, Brian Peterson.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It was super awesome. And for the work, I really appreciate it. So if after the proposal, if the proposal is accepted, and that change would happen, when would you expect that change to be implemented by?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for that question. Nice to see you. I think I'll kick that question over to our compliance and enforcement team, to Geraldina, to see what they're thinking, because they're the ones who will handle kind of the implementation piece of the fee exemption.
Yeah, I think it's gonna, as soon as the rule has been adopted, it's adopted, and that's the new requirement. So I don't know what the timeline is for rule adoption.
Yeah, from a rule perspective, then really the question was if there are any changes to our practices, that would take some time, but from a rule adoption, that's correct. Once it's adopted, then we can go ahead and make those changes to how we're implementing the rule.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, Geraldina.
Thank you for your question, Brian. Any other questions? Yes, Brian.
Sorry, I guess another question I have is it how defined are, you know, prescribed fires for fuels management going to be defined, I guess, or is it pretty much all prescribed burns would fall under this rule? Does that make sense as far as the question goes?
So at this time, we're not planning to change the definition of prescribed burning that is currently in Regulation 5. So any of the fire types that would fall under prescribed burning would be the ones that would be eligible for that fee exemption.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And I do see in the chat that Dennis also has a question. Dennis, feel free to ask your question.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. I must have the budget version of Zoom here because I'm having trouble getting my hand raised. So my name is Dennis Ryan. I'm the Prescribed Fire Program Manager for the Moraga Orenda Fire District over here in the East Bay. The district is working diligently to increase the number of projects that we initiate each year as far as prescribed fire. What we are trying to do is burn smaller projects, but burn more projects so we can keep our acres up. Most of our projects are in very populated suburban areas where fuel reduction is a priority. Reintroducing fire as an ecological and a land management tool is one of our main goals. By burning smaller projects, 10 acres or smaller, approximately, we have fewer smoke management issues and impacts, and those size fires are much more acceptable to our residents. Over the years, we've developed quite a collaborative relationship with the Air District staff, and I just wanted to say how much we appreciate that. And also wanted to say that removing the fees for other groups to do prescribed fire projects will increase our productivity and make our community safer. So in the end, we want to support the amendments that the district is considering. So thank you.
Thanks for that comment, Dennis.
Well, thank you, Dennis. We do have a question from Tristan Brenner from Malt. Will there be outreach done to inform private landowners that the fee is removed should it be approved?
Hi, Tristan. Yes, so I guess I'm a little curious how you heard about this workshop, because maybe a similar channel would be how you could find out about if this is adopted later in the fall. So typically we will have notices for when this is going to our for a public hearing to our board, and we have like a listserv you can subscribe to on our website to get those notifications when also something has been adopted. And I think if you happen to have, so if you got it from Brian, I'll be sure to send the note back to Brian to circulate it to that listserv as well, so that the word can get out. And thank you again to Brian for spreading the word about this workshop. Thanks, Brian.
Excuse me, I also don't seem to have a hand to raise. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Richard. The floor is yours.
I'm just so happy you're doing this. We've paid several smoke management fees now so far here as just private landowners. We're doing these cooperative burns where this has been one of our major expenses, has been the smoke management plan. So it'll be nice to see that go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other comments from anybody? Comments, questions? And if you're having trouble raising your hand, just let us know. And I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly, Thea Maria Carlson. Let me know if I did not pronounce it correctly.
You did great, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say I've organized a number of burns in Lake and Mendocino and Sonoma counties, and where I live is in Bay Area air quality. But the smoke management fees are quite a bit higher for Bay Area than the other counties where I work, and so that does make it pretty cost prohibitive for private landowners that don't have other funding for burning. So I'm really excited you're considering this, and I hope it will allow more people to implement burns.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. All right, I see some thumbs up, some comments in the chat. Are there any other questions around implementation, what these plan amendments would mean? All right, wonderful. Well, if there are no other questions, we will go to the next slide here and we will start closing up. So if you still have some curiosities and questions around this, oh, and we have time. So Brian, I do see your hand. Feel free to ask your question.
So sorry to come in last minute there, but I did have
Oh.
a question I wanted to ask. When this is brought to the board, is there any way or anything that would be helpful from the prescribed fire community? Whether it be showing up to a meeting and or writing a letter or something like that, that you feel like would be supportive of making this change? I'm not totally clear about the process, so that's why I asked.
Sure. Yeah. So the process is there's a couple opportunities for comment. So when we first published the draft staff report that lays out our proposal, we will have that open for a 30-day public comment period. So that's one opportunity to let us know what you think and comment on the proposal. And then another opportunity would be at the board hearing as well. Whether you would want to go in person or provide a written comment, that would be another opportunity. And at that point, our board is hearing, this is right before they'll be considering taking action. So, it's good for our board to hear from their constituents and understand what the public thinks about the proposal. So those would be two opportunities to provide public comment.
That answers your question, Brian. All right. Any other final curiosities or questions for our group of experts here?
And sorry, I'll just note, Brian, since I have your email, I'll be sure to reach out to you when these things happen so that you know what's going on. And anybody else, if you're, please reach out to me if you want to get on any listservs and you're not sure how to, get these communications. I think, there we go. There's my email. So if anybody wants to make sure to get this information, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Julia. Yeah, and as Julia mentioned, this is not the final opportunity for you to engage. There's public comment that's going to be open. We do have Julia's email here, as well as any specific questions, email address listed here. So if you're interested in following up or have any other questions as to how this is going to proceed to the board or to public comment, this is a great space just to note that down so you can continue your engagement. And with that, if there's no other questions, we will end a little bit earlier. Thank you all for coming today. And thank you to our speakers. It was really wonderful engaging with you all this evening.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.